So today I'm going to do something a little different. If you follow me on Facebook, you know I've published a few articles about Christianity, I guess is the best term. I've done ones about unity, about being a Christian in general. I call them articles. I suppose some might call them sermons, but I don't really consider myself a preacher. I've always had a heart for missions though, and I think the internet's a pretty good mission field. And it's my page and I'm going to post what I want. So if you don't like that, then maybe you shouldn't follow me. I mean, I welcome everybody, all right? I don't care if you are a Christian. As long as you respect my beliefs, I will respect yours. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care who you partner with. It's, I don't understand people who do that, who tell you you're not welcome here unless you believe like I do. I don't agree with that. You respect me, I'll respect you, all right? So that said, I have been watching, again, Harry Potter because I am big on rewatching things. And I really like rewatching things. I know, because my grandmother and my brother are always like, you're watching that again. I go, okay. Hey, I mean, come on. I work in groceries. It's super stressful sometimes, and I don't care. I just come home and I chill out. But anyway, the last article that I posted was called, and yes, I have it pulled it up here. So if you've seen it, this video is basically the same thing. It's called Being a Wizard in a Muggle World. And it occurred to me from Prisoner of Azkaban, which is one of my favorite movies, that Ron Weasley, he is quoted saying, "I know how to use a Fairytone now." Ron doesn't really know anything of the Muggle world. His entire world is the Wizarding world. He lives in both, but he knows next to nothing of the Muggles. It's very interesting to me. He doesn't know how to make a phone call. He doesn't know how to mail a letter. Remember when Mrs. Weasley mailed a letter to the Dursleys and it was like covered in stamps? That they didn't know what they were doing. This is not their world. They don't understand. He might take Muggle studies, but he never really applies it to his life. Which I think is very interesting because, you have all these kids who are Muggles at Hogwarts and you'd think they teach other kids some things. But anyway, the way it is in Harry Potter, wizards stay in the Wizarding world and the Muggles stay in their world. But that's not really how it works because, like I said, the Muggles are given Hogwarts letters every year. Hogwarts is full of Muggle students. Well, not full, but it's got quite a few. Like Harry and Hermione. And you'd think, don't they teach them anything at all? But no, instead, it's the Wizarding world that influences them. And I found that very interesting. Muggles have their own kind of magic, electronics. They have electricity. I mean, can you imagine Arthur Weasley with a smartphone? I have a whole fan fiction in my head about that one. But I'm sure there's one that exists, but I haven't actually written it, so. But it just struck me that in some ways it's quite similar to being a Christian in the world today. That we are expected to live and work among the Muggles, or people who are not Christian, but people who may not understand us. They might even shun us, or worse, just for being Christian. And that is, in many ways, like a wizard in, modern day London. Like Harry Potter. I mean, they don't go out and say, "Hi, I'm a wizard," because people will look at them very strangely. I know that's quite the same, but similar idea in my mind. Like Ron, we certainly know of the Muggle world, or the singular world. And maybe like Arthur, we're fascinated by it, but it's not ours. It never has been. It's a fine line to walk, and it's not always easy to be in both worlds, to be both a Christian or / wizard, but live in the secular world or the Muggle world. And there in 1 John 2:15 it says, "Don't love the world," or anything that belongs to the world. If you love the world, you cannot love the Father. We cannot hold on to our singular or Muggle wants and desires and also walk the Christian walk. You cannot be a regular Muggle, if you would. But there is hope, because like the Muggle can get the Hogwarts letter, like Hermione, and Harry for that matter, a non-Christian can become a Christian. The gates are welcome for anyone to walk through. I know that Hogwarts gates aren't really that open, but heavens are. I quite like this article, this quote from J.K. Rowling that I found when I was researching quotes and verses. She says, "The wizards represent all the true Muggle fears. They are plainly outcasts and comfortable being so. Nothing is more unnerving than the truly conventional, than the unashamed misfit." Wow, the unashamed misfit, a wizard, a Christian. Can you call yourself an unashamed misfit? Are you? I don't think I can always do that. I think sometimes I'd rather just hide in my room. I don't really want to face the world, you know what I mean? But what an awesome phrase. Have you noticed in the books or the movies, the wizards are never afraid to be themselves. They are never afraid to be their usual magical selves, no matter what the cost. They know what they're standing for, and they're okay with it. Even in the middle of Muggle territory, they are not ashamed to be in who they are. In Goblet of Fire, during the World Quidditch match, they are literally flying their flags for all to see, and they are not afraid. Even though they did have to perform some memory wipes on that poor the groundkeeper. But that's not really the point. The point is they're not afraid. They're not afraid to be their unashamed misfit selves, to be wizards. They have no need of the Muggle world. They're perfectly happy being in their own wizard world. And then in Psalm 119, 116, yes, 116, very long verse, chapter. "Lord, strengthen my inner being by the promises of your word, so that I may live faithful and unashamed for you." Now that, I think, be hard to live by sometimes, don't you? But I think, like Ron, we are fascinated by the Muggle world, but we don't need it. Remember, back in 1 John 2:15, you cannot love the world and everything that belongs to the world and love the Father. There's several other verses like that too. I got notes. But I just found that very interesting, this whole Muggle in a wizard world. I thought that's pretty an interesting analogy for being a Christian, I thought. And maybe you do too. I would like to hear your thoughts. I would like to, I don't know. I've never done a video one like this. I've usually just write them. But I'm working on making smaller videos, post them more often. So this is one of the first ones I've done. So I'd like to know your thoughts. Do you have any verses to add or quotes or thoughts? Let me know. Have a good day. And please remember to be nice to customer service personnel. Have a good night.